They recently did a very interesting survey about people's willingness to discuss their political beliefs. In the survey, it turned out that 40% of people were unwilling to voice their true political beliefs. Most of them, in fact, were conservatives. They were fearful of saying that they were conservatives, or let alone that they vote for Trump, right? Because they were afraid of the social consequences that would befall them if they were to say, yes, I'm a conservative. 40% of the people, 40% of the people in the United States, That's an outrageously high number. That's 2 out of 5. Do you know how bad it was during McCarthyism? During McCarthyism in the 1950s, when the whole Red Scare was going on? Because at the time, if you don't know, because of the newfound Cold War going on with the Soviet Union, there was a lot of essentially persecution of people who were communists, or who had, alleged to be communists, or claimed to be sympathetic to communists, right? And this whole kind of like persecution of people who were perceived to be as communist. This was called McCarthyism after the Senator Joseph McCarthy, who had a series of hearings that were kind of like a little bit of a kangaroo court. But anyway, the point. At that time, approximately 14% of people were afraid to voice their political opinion. 14% is a pretty high number. It's basically 1 in 7. But 14% is a hell of a lot less than 40%, which is going on today. Basically, today's cancel culture is worse than McCarthyism. Yeah, because back in the McCarthy era, somebody who was thought to be a communist might lose their job. And so a lot of people would sign these declarations saying, I am not a communist, blah, blah. But the thing is, see, only 14% of the population were fearful of saying out loud what they believed in politically. Presumably because, 14% of them were communists, yeah? But today, we have 40%. And why are people afraid of saying out loud what they believe in politically? Because of cancel culture. Because of the thought, the belief that if they say that they are conservative, they will be labeled as homophobic, Islamophobic, sexist, basically fascist, basically Nazis. If they say that they are conservative, they will be ostracized. And it's not an unfounded belief. Yeah, because a lot of people who claim to be conservative all of a sudden get canceled. They lose their jobs. They lose their businesses. Chris Pratt, this actor, an incredibly likable guy, a nice guy, okay? He's never harmed a fly as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, rather. He seems a perfectly quiet, hardworking actor. Good on him. Apparently he's a Christian, which there's nothing wrong with that. Christianity is a major religion, yeah? He's a Christian and he doesn't talk about his politics. And people are suspicious of that, of course, because it's more likely than not that he's a conservative. And because of that, people want to cancel him. People wanted to get him booted off the movie franchise that he's involved in, They want him to lose his job because of the fact that he's a Christian conservative, which is crazy. But that's what's going on, yeah? The guy is a Christian and likely a political conservative, and because of that, he's never even said that he's a political conservative, but because people have inferred that he's a political conservative and refuses to go out and say, no, I am not a political conservative, I'm a good liberal, yes, I believe in all the liberal shibboleths, right? Because he's not willing to do that, they want to get him booted off the Marvel franchises, right? And Chris Pratt, the nicest guy in the world, And people start to realize, well, if it could happen to Chris Pratt, it can happen to me. And of course, the difference is that Chris Pratt is a millionaire, a multimillionaire, But you're an average Joe, you got an average wage. If you lose your job, you're going to be up Schitt's Creek now, won't you? Yeah, absolutely. And so people are afraid. People are afraid of cancel culture. And when you ask them, 40% are afraid to voice their political opinion, compared to only 14% during the height of the Red Scare, during the McCarthy era of the 1950s. What does that tell you? Cancel culture is worse than McCarthyism. That's what it tells you. Cancel culture is online bullying. Not merely online, it's just bullying, full stop. It's bullying by a tiny minority of people who have scared the majority. Because let's face facts, these people who are baying for Chris Pratt's blood, potentially for your blood or my blood, they are a tiny microscopic minority of crazy people, of bullies. That's what they are. Stone cold bullies who want to destroy people's lives in order to feel big and tough and strong. That's what they are doing. That's who they are. They are bullies. And they will be the death of us. Yeah, because if these bullies who want to destroy people's lives ever get their hands on the levers of power, of real political power, do you think that they will hesitate even for an instant to utterly and completely destroy people's lives with the power of the state? Of course they're going to do that. Of course they're going to do that. And that's what they're trying to do. People like Kamala Harris, people like, well, you get the point. Yeah, just look around at the Democratic establishment. These people are fascists, real fascists. They are bullies. They are people who want to destroy your life because you do not toe the political line that they want you to. This has gone on in the Soviet Union. This has gone on in Nazi Germany. This has gone on in communist China. It goes on everywhere that there is totalitarianism. This is what it is. It's totalitarianism, plain and simple. And I think that's incredibly troubling is that it's not coming from the top down. It's not coming from some crazy-ass leader like Stalin or Hitler or Mao and going down to the ground level. No. It's percolating from the bottom, going up. It's regular citizens online who so hate any kind of dissent, any kind of dissident voice, anybody who disagrees with them, that they are willing to destroy them. And it's coming from the bottom. It's coming from the bottom and it's percolating up. This kind of thing, it's going to get worse over the years. It's going to get a lot worse. Because see, it's not coming from the top. It's coming from the bottom. See? Movements, when they come from the top, when they come from some crazy-ass leader like Stalin, like Hitler, like Mao, once that leader is gone, that whole thing, it's gone too. It just goes poof, yeah? Gone with the wind, as they say. But when it comes from the bottom, when not just a few tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of people think the same, that repression of dissident voices is justified. When it comes from all these people at the bottom of society and it percolates up, then it's going to be a lot harder to eradicate now, won't it? To change people's minds, to make it clear that cancel culture is bullying, it's totalitarian. It's going to be a lot harder. All I wanted to do in this video was to point out the similarities between McCarthyism and cancel culture and show how cancel culture is worse. How this is going to be solved, I do not know. And it could be that in the democracies in the West, we go through a few years, perhaps a decade, perhaps longer, where this kind of bullying totalitarianism just sweeps through the whole society and ruins countless lives, millions of people's lives. It could be that that happens. You got to keep in mind, in the Cultural Revolution in communist China during the 60s, yeah, Mao started it at the top, but there was a groundswell, and it rose up and carried this wave forward, okay? And this wave ruined the lives of millions of people, and it took a long time to stop it. In fact, the Chinese Communist Party, which was a totalitarian party and had full control of the military, it took them years to stamp out the Cultural Revolution and the excesses of the Cultural Revolution. And they had the military and they were willing to use it, okay? What happens in a democracy? What happens in a democracy when you have all these people, citizens, regular people, who believe this kind of bullying insanity, and who are willing to apply it to others, to Chris Pratt, to you? It's going to be a nightmare. And how to get out of this nightmare? I made my choice. I left. I'm footloose and fancy-free. And I live in countries where this isn't going to happen anytime soon. And if it ever were to happen in the countries I live in, I'd leave. Absolutely. You who are in the Western democracies, stuck in whatever country you are in, where this is starting to percolate, where it's starting to nip at your heels, I don't know what to tell you, okay? But it's coming. It's most definitely coming.